And now I'm thrilled to kick off part 2 of today's keynote session and introduce you to Sophie Donelson. Some of you may have heard Sophie speak at one of our past events, and you told us you wanted to learn more from her. We're so excited to have her back with us, and she'll be speaking to us today from Canada. For those of you not familiar with her, Sophie was previously the editor-in-chief of House Beautiful, America's longest published home decor magazine, where she inspired a new generation of design lovers to embrace color and happiness at home. She also wrote the bestseller Style Secrets, What Every Room Needs, and has appeared as an on-air design expert on The Today Show, Good Morning America, and Open House. She's joining us today to share with you tips to design your vacation rental for that all-important traveler segment, families. Welcome, Sophie. So glad you're here.
Anji, thank you so much. And thanks, of course, to the Verbo family and our Verbo partners here. I'm so excited to be back to talk to you guys. I always say what a joy is you as an audience, because I love design and you love design, and so many of you are so good at it. So like introduced, I'm Sophie. I am coming to you from Montreal today. I am a longtime magazine editor, home design expert, author, and also a mother and an avid traveler. I have 2 boys, ages 9 and 5, and we love renting vacation properties. So I have anecdotal experience as well as professional experience in this. There's a phrase that keeps popping back into my head, which I think is really funny, which is once in a while I'll be like, yes, we're going to Long Island, or we're going to Switzerland, or we're going to California for the weekend. They're like, oh, that's such a fun vacation. I always reply, oh, no, it's a family trip. Because it's a family trip. And the reason that parents separate the idea of vacation from family trip is stress. It is intense and difficult to navigate a new location, new property, all these unexpected variables, your kids, potentially time change, and on and on and on. And so this is something that can be stressful. The upside of this is that as owners and property managers and hosts, you know exactly how to make it better. You yourself have traveled, and with that experience and some of the tips I'm going to give you today, I think it is possible to get there. I offered to answer some questions also on my Instagram, which is Sophie DOW. I'm going to present a lot of information today and some great statistics and beautiful images. And if you have questions about any of that, you can hit me up in DMs and I'll help you out. So a lot of my work when I was working in magazines and the work that I'm doing right now addresses design from a broader perspective than I think most people think about it. I think people think about home design as sort of like style or fashion, but for the home. And the truth is that design and home design is actually, it's everything that the built environment does to give us an experience of living a certain way. So design is the thought to put a sofa in a sunny window, so that maybe you stay there for longer, maybe your kids gravitate towards it, maybe a conversation is sparked there because you're all just comfy and hanging out. But design is also what can be restrictive to us. It can be like getting out of bed because there's a crack in the door and you immediately see like the light in the bathroom shining in your eye at night. Like that's also design, is that somebody let that light bulb be installed in that funny way. And so especially in terms of living at home, when I talk about design, what I really want to say is that it's here to decrease the friction of life and bring joy and sublime and memorable kind of experiences and moments to us. There's a great power there. If you've ever been to like, a fancy kitchen and use one of those like soft closed drawers, maybe it's a utensil drawer and you push it too hard, good design is exactly what happens when it closes softly and without a sound. It's like your body is anticipating maybe clanging or something like that. And instead it just dissipates and you go, oh. So what a beauty is there in that? And imagine if that same kind of perspective could kind of infiltrate your entire property and let people not just have low or no friction, but move from that into something truly special. So that to me is a spectrum, right? There's challenges and stresses and friction with poor design. With good design, you actually don't notice anything at all because everything has been sort of created intuitively for you to move through the space, and you might not notice it. And then when you add a layer of beauty or of kind of that idea of anticipating somebody else's actions or motions or surprising them with something beautiful, then you move into the sublime. And so the idea for this family travel is to get you from aggravating to unremarkable to joyful and then sublime. I love this picture of kind of what I think of as a modern day family traveler. Some people are thinking maybe millennials or Xers and their kids, but actually Janet Gomez, who's an LA blogger, she travels often with 3 generations. And this is what a lot of family travel looks like right now. There's this boomer generation that has disposable income. They have a passion for travel. They want to go somewhere and they're ready to do it. I think Xers and millennials like myself are, looking for things to do on school vacation or a break from the usual. And then there's the kids in tow. So when we're talking today about these ideas, I really want you to think about this concept called designing for the edges, that in life, there's this idea that we're sort of designing for the average person, but the truth is there is no average person. And there's people with all different abilities and all different mobility needs and all different ages. And so instead of thinking of just like, what is average, actually think through a toddler, through somebody who's elderly, and everybody in between with varying abilities. And so that's what I bring to you to sort of kick off the day. So for me, the topic that came up again and again as the most important to mention is sleep. Sleep is something that just cannot be avoided in terms of addressing a stressful potential moment for families. So my mother is constantly like, oh, I'm sleeping in a bed that's not my own. And it's like this huge thing. I'm like, yes, it's a different bed. It's not your bed. It's going to be different. It's a hotel. It's a rental, you name it. It's something that she immediately has anxiety about. Is she can have a good sleep? Is going to be a bad sleep? And so what can we do to mitigate that? What can we do to make sure that she has a restful sleep? I have a 4-year-old right now. He needs to sleep near me. Ideally not with me, but near me. And when we go to a new location, everything's up for grabs, right? We don't know if he's going to be comfortable in there, if he wants to sleep near his brother. His brother's 9, he gets annoyed by the little brother. So everybody has these sort of like different needs for sleep. And so what can we do to get people to a good night's sleep? Because as we know, with a bad night's sleep, it's hard to have a really good day. And with a good night's sleep, anything is possible when you're on vacation. So one of those things, just right off the bat, great linens, clean linens, and new pillows. That's an obvious to me. A bedside table or stand. I am shocked at how many images I see where it's just a bed and there's nothing on either side of it. And I think about what it feels like to reach down and get your phone or to drop your glasses, or if there's just a discomfort there. The point of design is to reduce the friction of life. It's not just about being pretty, it's about moving through space and enjoying your time. I always say, like, when something's poorly designed, you can tell right away. You have a challenge, you're navigating a tough hallway, or you're in bad light and you look in the mirror and you look awful. When you're in something that's well designed, you actually might not even notice it. This is the funny part about design. All of that friction sort of falls away and you're just left maybe going about your day, taking your trip, doing whatever. When you're in sublime design, you notice it again, but this time you're taking it in. Imagine walking in somewhere, you've been to a house party, maybe you walk in and there's a great scent. It's either something cooking or a beautiful candle. Maybe there's a soft carpet under your feet. Maybe it's a really nice home. All of a sudden you feel enveloped by all of these are little decisions, right? Little decisions that somebody made to make you feel comfortable. And so we want to pull on these and bring these into your own home. So the comfort is the number one thing, and we want people to notice it. Number 3, bedside lamp and night lights. Essential. I think it's really important for somebody to be able to go to bed, shut the door, turn on the light, and either have a conversation, read a book, you name it. There needs to be a light by the bed, and there's a lot of simple ways to do it. Number 4, alarm clock. I say no alarm clock. I'm known to turn them around, push them against the wall, unplug them. Oh my gosh, the amount of times it's gone off in the middle of the night because somebody forgot to change it or to turn off the alarm. I'm not used to it. I'm not used to living with it. I mean, what a horror show. We've gone to all this effort, or it ticks, or it's too bright. So how do we bat that away and say, listen, if you need to know the time, you probably have a phone on you, might keep it right there. And if you're on vacation, you might be one of those people that likes to unplug. I often try to leave my phone in the other room. I know my husband won't. So if somebody needs to get through to us, they will. But I love nothing more. Like that to me is a true vacation. Number 5, absolutely most important thing I can get across to you today. Shades, curtains, blackout blinds, shutters, you name it. Okay, so I am one of those many people, and there are many out there, and many of them are children, and many of them are grandparents who will wake up at the tiniest bit of sunlight and help you. If you are at the ocean where there is no shade, there is no cover, and it is summer, and the light is up early, and it is bright, and you're not used to it, whoa, that's a real start to your morning. Please put up blackout curtains. You wouldn't believe the amount of things that parents do in order to avoid waking their kids up. So I made a short list of them. In fact, I didn't even take much to survey. People shut towels into the windows to block the light. They'll tape garbage bags or press tinfoil up against the window. I've been known to take sofa cushions and press them up against flimsy curtains. Or my favorite method, take an Ambien at 8 p.m. and just hope that your kids won't wake up early. We're dealing with time change, new beds, all sorts of things. So how do you make sleep just a must-do, must-work thing? So we've talked a little bit about what we see for sleep, but what we're missing, of course, is what we might feel, and even more so, what we might hear. A humming refrigerator. Have you slept in all of these beds? Do you know? Does the furnace kick on? Does the refrigerator have like a really tough hum? What are the other external elements? Is there a motion detector light that might be right outside that all of a sudden when a squirrel passes to in the night and there's like bright light? Talk about jarring. Not a vacation. So again, how do we bat away all those little things? Of course, a recipe for good sleep isn't just what you look at, because design is something you experience. So the recipe includes what you feel and what you hear. And number one on my list for that is having a bedside rug or runner. It is really, I don't care if it's 103 and humid and tile floor is what you have throughout the house. It's not always comfortable to wake up in the morning and put your feet on cold tile. It's just nicer to have something underfoot. One exception to that, of course, is if you have guests that are coming with either disabilities or mobility challenges, roll up those rugs, which is why I love thin cotton rugs. They roll up easily, they wash easily, they can go away. So if you know that about an incoming guest, you can get rid of that. And for everybody else, just lay it down. I don't have to tell you about a good mattress. Of course, good mattress means something different for everybody out there, but it definitely doesn't mean something that sags in the middle. And so yes, worth a sleep on that to make sure you're in the good mattress category. And finally, if there are things humming, things going on, natural sounds, sometimes even beach waves can get to somebody, a fan, an air conditioner unit, or at least earplugs in a welcome basket or with a note is just a really nice thing to offer people to make sure they have a good night's sleep. Some of the images I'm showing are about the idea of moving away from a bedroom and really thinking about bed as a bed chamber. That's where they all came from, right? Back in the day, there'd be large gaping spaces, you can call it open floor plan maybe, and truly bed chambers, like a tester bed or a 4-poster bed with curtains on either side. And this was really like a place that you would tuck in for the night, close the curtains to keep in the warmth, and have your little nestled sort of nook right there. It's still a great idea for today. A bedroom doesn't need much, and it certainly doesn't need much space. You need a comfy bed, very little light and very little noise. So an easy way to think about that. And you don't have to stick to just white. As long as you're kind of using color to envelop the room, even a coral room or a clay colored room can be truly restful when you're just sort of wrapped in all over color. I look at this Verbo room with the fan and the view of the ocean and those really nice ample curtains there. And I think like that looks like a really good night's sleep to me. So another thing that's peculiar to families of all ages is what I call musical beds. So like I mentioned earlier, everybody has different sleeping habits and ways of doing things. What can you do to sort of answer that call? So one, day beds, futons, floor cushions, all of these sort of like casual, kind of schlumpy, maybe you kind of think like college era sleeping arrangements. Something in a spare room or a basement, that's something a teenager might gravitate toward and say, you guys take the bedrooms, I'm all set, I want my own personal space. I'm gonna go down here and flop over there. Bunks are now made in all sorts of ways where they can have a queen under it and a twin going this way. It doesn't have to feel like a concession. In fact, I know lots of grownups that are just very excited to take the top bunk because of course it brings us back to being a kid again, and what's more vacation than that? I saw a great rolling rack with a curtain. So simple and a great way to partition off a space. So if you have an empty closet or a nook or just a funny part, doing something like that, or this like a room divider with a strong tension rod and a blackout curtain, you've now added another bedroom and added flexibility. Even if you're not advertising it as a 4-bedroom property, all of a sudden you have sort of this bonus space that a lot of parents will be relieved is there. And cool ways also to turn those day beds sort of into sofas or resting spaces for like a great room. Like I love this concept of 2 twin beds running along kind of like a big rec room. When the pillows are up against the wall, it works as a day bed, but when you switch the pillows around, you have 2 more twin beds there. And I can totally see kids or adults fighting for that space. I kept running into, when I was researching kids' rooms, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes, this kind of sensational sofa called the Nugget. Maybe you've heard of it. It's a foam sofa. It's quite affordable. I think $300 or less. It like kind of like flips over and it has a wedge, a triangle piece to it. And I run into them everywhere because kids love playing with them. They're great features. They make an extra little bed and they're kind of funky and fun. You might run into that. So our first audience question, okay, so got a couple questions at the outset when I was chatting with the Verbo folk, and the one that kept coming up is, are white linens really better? Now, I love to be contrarian myself, but they are better. They are absolutely better, and here's why. We have been trained to think that fresh white sheets are fresh, that they are clean, that they've been bleached, that they're, it's just clean, pure, fresh, good night's sleep. It's in our head in the same way where something washed with, Tide or Clorox has that kind of chemical clean smell. It actually smells cleaner to us than something washed with a non-fragrance thing that is absolutely as clean, if not even cleaner. It's just in our head, and so go with it. The other thing that white sheets do is it can really freshen up a space that has some age or character to it. So I look at this great wooden 4-poster bed, right? It wouldn't be the same with kind of like, old patchwork blankets or, different, cotton blankets or layers or even a colorful duvet. It feels incredibly fresh and welcoming and crisp. Same thing with these cute iron twin beds. I love that they added that splash of color and character with something patchwork at the foot of the bed, but you have these clean white linens, and that contrast is like, it's both character and freshness. And I just think that can't be beat. So that's just a design trick that works. I think we can layer it with color, all the better, but white sheets, I'm a yes on that. And I love color. Same thing works for bathrooms. If you can picture like a cottage bathroom or a beach bathroom, they get a lot of wear and tear. Some of them are quite dated, but white bath mats and white bath sheets, the more, the better, right? We get a big jolt of joy from abundance. And so I think we can layer in a lot of fluffy white towels. It's just, there's a signal of like, you are in a luxury moment right now. So we've already covered 2 out of the 3 reasons people get poor reviews. Number 1, we didn't even go over because it would be to be untidy, to leave the property untidy, but I know you would never, so let's not worry about that. Number 2, uncomfy beds and what I call unlovely linens. I think when it's time for an upgrade, it's never, the old sheets that go there. It's always like, oh gosh, I wish I was staying here. I wish our home was as nice as our rental is. So that's 2, and you'll get 3 in a minute. Kids' bedrooms are a place to go wild. They photograph well, they get this family excited. People go through them, parents anticipate what their kids are going to say or look at when they walk into a bedroom that's a space theme or that has a swing in it or that has a princess bed or something crazy like that. Like that's something that parents say, like, I can't wait to treat my kid to this experience. And there are so many ideas, a bunch of which I have here, that honestly are not professional decorators. These are DIY ideas, very budget friendly. And also just sort of charming. Like, why not have a world map, on the wall for kids to notice where they are, where they came from. So many ideas having to do with paint, and also ideas that come up with just creatively trying to use the space. Like maybe you have to curtain off somewhere because it doesn't fit a door. All these things that might seem like a concession to you can actually be kind of like really fun experiences for the family that visits. If you haven't revisited Tapestries since college, I welcome you back because they are a really great decorative tool. And I love this example of one that's actually made almost into like a tester bed where they carry the tapestry there. That is so simple. It's literally tacked onto the ceiling, no hardware required. And you can just sort of picture the face of a tween or teen that's sort of like eye roll and walks into the room and it's like, okay, I'll stay here. I like it. Organization, number 2. Going to a new location, the major stress is keeping things together. You are caring for people. You have maybe food, medication. Maybe you're at the beach and you have all sorts of, different, supplies and toys with you or bathing suits, and you're trying to keep that all together in a new spot. Help a family out. Put up some pegs, some hooks, leave some dedicated baskets that are empty for their use. That to me, like waking up and feeling organized instead of like having to get organized, just proceeding on your day is a great joy. A ladder is a really great tool that people can just hang up clothing over, really super simple. Houses at the beach. Actually at the Verbo summit that I was at last, during the after party, I remember this woman and I were talking and I had mentioned that I had a longtime rental in Fire Island, which is an island kind of under Long Island near New York City. And she was like, oh God, there's so many aggravations with like beach renters. And she was like, people think they're so clever. They bring shells up from the beach and they line them along our balcony or like her railing. And she's like, they think they're so cute to do that. And she's like, it's just trash to me. You sort of scoop all of it into a bucket and bring it back down to the beach. Like it's just something for me to clean up. And I thought to myself, I'm like, oh my God, I've totally been that person. I've absolutely thought I was clever and cute to line up shells. So when I saw this great basket of shells, it's sort of like a, hello, welcome here. The shells go right in here. Please don't clutter our space with them, which is really cute. One of the sources that I return to again and again in my writing is a book from Ingrid Fattel-Lee called Joyful. And it sort of kind of digs into the idea of how do you take mundane moments and make them into sort of sublimely happy moments for people. And her own home is a great kind of look into this, like this yellow striped closet, which is something happy every time you open the door, even when it's cluttered, or arranging your books by color is another one. She lives in a pretty neutral palette in terms of walls, but does something that a lot of decorators do, which is employs color with impact, right? So there's this great Kelly green, which is one of her favorites. And she did this for benches and dining chairs. Joy doesn't have to just be in the kids' rooms. This is really a chance to sprinkle it all over the home. People have left their home and their mess to get away to your property. And what are you going to give them? How are you going to light them up? How are you going to make them have that like Cookie Monster face when they walk in the door, just like the kids do when they see a swing in the backyard or, other toys or something like that. And little pops of color, moments of pattern, little happy moments, something that can do that. Here's a Verbo property on Harbor Island in the Bahamas called Coral House. And it's just exquisite. And you can see this peachy pink coral color is employed all throughout the house. I mean, how could you be sad or bummed out in a location like that? And even all the way to the refrigerator in the kitchen. It's just such a memorable moment and it just oozes happiness to me. So a couple of ways to do that. I always paint, so many fun ideas out there. Candy colored front door. I mean, it's just, I brought this up in Designing for Memories, but that moment of seeing something in the listing and noticing that turquoise door, that apple green door or pink door, and then arriving to the home for the first time and seeing it is this full circle moment of like, we planned and we plotted and we've been looking forward to this. And now we're here. It's just like this, there's a whole full circle that happens there and it's not hard to pull off. Freezer full of ice cream if you've got the budget. I know that we have a local dairy near Montreal where I am that has great tubs of ice cream for a great price. And so what would be better than opening the freezer and seeing a whole bunch of it in there. S'mores kits, maybe it's like flip-flops or Crocs by the door. Yeah, something to surprise your guests, like how fun. About dining and eating, I just have this vision of like bringing a box of mac and cheese, stopping at the local market to get, butter and milk and eggs and a couple things for our stay, showing up to our rental property, and I couldn't find a pot. Like I couldn't find a pot, like a big enough pot to make mac and cheese for my kids. And it's like already past 5 and they're getting hungry. How stressful. My husband says that a quarter of his brain at all times is dedicated to our kids' like blood sugar levels, like making sure that okay, have we just eaten? Is there a snack packed for later? What time is dinner? What happens before dinner? Are they going to be like, we just have to keep their mood good, because when one goes off the rails, it like ruins life for everybody else. So getting the kitchen in shape to where there's everything you need is so paramount, and it's not hard to do. And in fact, an easy way to do that is to really keep track of what it is, give it ample space, and not overstuff. The New York Times Wirecutter has a ton of great articles about kind of what to buy, the best air mattress, the best duvet, this, that, and the other. But they also have some really great tools on what is exactly enough supplies that you need at your home. What are those essentials? I think also about where you keep them, the drawers, the doors, the cabinets. If you know exactly where they go and there's a dedicated space for them, you know exactly what's missing, what's broken, and that can be a great joy. I love, this was, originally a Julia Child idea. She famously had in her Cambridge, Massachusetts kitchen, a pegboard, an old school hardware pegboard with the S hooks in there. And I think it's so great. Imagine being an avid chef or even just being a parent needing to whip something up, and you walk into a kitchen and you know exactly what you have, right? It's all clearly laid out, and you think, oh my gosh, I hadn't planned to bake, but they have this great bakeware. I'm gonna, where you should make some muffins for the morning, or all of a sudden it might spark ideas because it's all out there and clean. You might not do this in your primary home, but it's actually a really cool idea for renters. And that's number 3 of the 3 truths of why poor reviews happen. Number 3 is an undersupplied kitchen, major frustration for family travelers. There's a great opportunity that lies in the kitchen. Also happens a little bit in the bath, but especially here. And this is the joy of abundance. There is nothing like, I said, a stack of fluffy towels that totally works, but also it's seeing, 12 matching coffee cups, or, 12 wine glasses, or, 6 of the same exact cereal bowl. If you're like me, and even though I'm a longtime home editor and I have taste in these things, I have plastic cups left over from Chuck E. Cheese. I have thermoses that are missing straws. Like, my drawers are like everybody else's. They're in shambles, and I'm always looking for, lids. To walk into a kitchen where it's organized and there's matching pieces and they're stacked, it's like, that's my vacation right there. I love that idea. And also very simple, and also a great way to freshen up what could be a dated space. So look at this. This is sort of like an old cottage, and everything is sort of aged and aging here in its own charming way, but having kind of that matching idea, just the way that white towels did it in maybe an older bathroom, it just, it sparks an idea of freshness and brightness. Okay, a great chapter. And it was sparked by an audience question, which is, how can I childproof and help guests with disabilities? And it was interesting to me that it was presented in this order, and I was heartened to see disabilities and accessibility mentioned in this question. Lots of people ask about childproofing, which I'll cover quickly, but we don't talk enough about what happens at the other end of the spectrum. So there's something I call the sweep, which is what all parents do upon entering their vacation spot. And that's basically, you like walk in, drop the bags, get the kids busy doing something, and immediately scan the space for anything that could go wrong. Anything that could be broken, anything that's dangerous, you name it. And so it's like clearing coffee tables of decorative accents that are really just clutter that are going to get lost or broken and are going to stress you out, or plants that are going to tip over, or, there's all sorts of things. And parents do it right away, and they put it on a high shelf, and they're screaming to their spouse, honey, I put the keys to the garage and the coffee cup on the top shelf, or, the shed lock is over here, like communicating to themselves to make sure that they are staying organized, that they know where it is, and they're not going to be locking up for the weekend and go, oh my God, where's the blah, blah, blah. When I was renting that cottage on Fire Island, we used to rent the really kind of cruddy college party house when we were in our 20s. And then the owner, when we were in our mid-30s, invited us to rent her cottage. And it was I felt like I'd graduated. It was very exciting. On our first weekend there, I had a 2.5, maybe 3-year-old, and I was pregnant with my next one. And he was playing with a collection of rocks, from the sea nearby. And I quickly put them away. I was like, oh, they were all arranged nicely. Let's put them away. And a week passes, and she goes back to the cottage and calls me and said, have you seen a smooth black stone? Did you run across that? And I said, yeah, of course, there was like I think there was like a collection of rocks near the stairs on a ledge, and I ended up putting them away. She was like, no, but this one, it's about an inch. And she's describing it to me. She told me it was an ancient Incan fishing weight. It was a gift to her husband for like an anniversary. I mean, what do you do? I don't even know what to say. Obviously, her fault for leaving it out and mine for not putting it away. Don't be the person with the ancient Incan fishing weight collection and leave something there. And do be the parent that swipes it up and puts it away. So now I'm really good with the sweep. Your other childproofing tips really quickly: baby gates and front gates. This also works for pets. Outlet plugs and covers, kind of an obvious one, like $1 at the hardware store. Securing or taping loose cords. And this works for everybody. Everybody can trip over a cord. The bigger one, totally worth it: securing heavy furniture to the wall or TVs. And obviously latching where there's chemicals or household cleaning stuff. Easy cheesy, that one. So yes, always a lot of questions about childproofing, but the truth is what you're doing is just creating an atmosphere that lets people feel confident, footloose and fancy free, that there's not things to worry about or barriers in the home. And truthfully, that is a boon to travelers of all ages and abilities for you to start with that. So by all means, start with childproofing, but then start to think about the different sorts of guests who will enter your property. It's an interesting time right now. 2034 is not so far off. And that is the year that, at least in America, we will move from being a nation with more young people to being one with more 65 plus. So the scales tip then. And so perfect time right now to think about what that looks like and what the needs are of diverse travelers. So a couple different kind of words and language that are used for this. And of course, language is always evolving. So one that you probably know is the idea of accessibility. The challenge with the term accessibility is that it's come to mean to a lot of people that it's either an able-bodied person or a person in a wheelchair, that somehow there's a binary. It's this or it's that, when that's not the case. And that's why there's other terms to use. So inclusivity is one of those, universal design another, and also a concept that I love called designing to the edges, which is the idea is that there are no average people, that there is a huge spectrum of people, ages, and abilities, and that designing to keep all of those in mind is really our best practice here. And if you want to know more about inclusion in all sorts of different ways, make sure to check out Evita Robinson's program. It's part of this Verbo Summit. Incredible stuff and very much worth looking into. So going back to this idea of accessibility, inclusion, the data shows that here in America, that 1 in 7 people have a mobility impairment of some sort. And even more extreme than that, 1 in 3 have trouble operating some feature of their own home, be it moving around or doing simple daily tasks. And that's of an age 65 plus. And as we know, boomers becoming the biggest audience, this is going to be something that we run up to again and again. And so I have a number of best practices for you that can help move your home in the direction of a place that you can welcome so many people. And so I bring you to the idea of inclusive design. So the challenge, I think, is that there's a term about accessibility that really refers, unfortunately, specifically to people using a wheelchair. But the truth is that it's just a fraction of the number of people with disabilities out there, with mobility disabilities, not to even mention eyesight or cognitive disabilities. And that's about 1 in 4 Americans right now who suffer with some sort of disability. And 1 in 4 of those have a mobility challenge. So, and this is growing. So as you can see, most of the boomers are over 60 now. And so this is a trend that's just getting more and more. And so how do we recognize that at our homes and invite people in? Because what I think is really important is not just designing for the extremes, right? Of somebody that's either fully able-bodied or somebody in a wheelchair, but truly for a spectrum of in between, because not everybody needs a ramp. But think of how many people would feel just a little bit more comfortable having a handrail going up a set of stairs. And so that's really what I want us to think about, is like when you move through that space, is everybody from the age of a toddler up through an octogenarian and then on comfortable in your home? And how could you make them more comfortable? And then also, and publicize that, because I think it, like I said, a great business opportunity. So I'm going to go through the 5 key things of making your home inclusive, a best case scenario, and then a place to start, because of course, we're all just doing the best that we can. Number one is a threshold-free or barrier-free entry or ramp. And what that means is you're either ground level and able to go right in without steps or thresholds, or maybe you have a small ramp or an incline in order to get there. If you notice in this beautiful one of the gray porch goes seamlessly actually onto a wood floor. So if you have the ability to renovate, that is a huge thing. Even those tiny thresholds, right? Those little curbs are barriers for people. Short of that, they sell ramps for up to 2 steps. That is one, or railings and handrails. Number 2, passages. 36 inches wide is what we need to get a typical wheelchair through, or somebody with a walker or a cane or two. That's for doorways and halls. And you can see how gracious this is, a beautiful Vervo rental with a second floor, which actually has an elevator. But second to that, clearing the area. You don't need clutter or things that are jamming your hallways to be even sort of like tighter and more cramped. Bathroom. So the way to do this now, and of course they've been doing it in Europe forever, is a wet room. So instead of having these separate rooms for your toilet, your washroom, your shower, a wet room really has truly a grouted tiled floor, and then a shower, bathtub, and the entire space can get wet and it drains out. And what that does is removes that curb step into a shower, which can be a challenge for so many people. So here's a beautiful example of one. Another fun fact about tile, the smaller the tile, the more the grout. And what that means is that you don't need bath mats to mitigate slippage. It's just already something that the feet can grab onto. Short of that, remove your bath mats and have ample grab bars. There's a great line from Delta, like Delta Faucet, called Delta Decor Assist, that kind of hides these grab rails, handrails and grab bars on top of your hardware, such as a toilet paper holder. And I thought it was just a really super elegant solution. You'd never even notice it. Kitchen, keeping things low, refrigerator, freezer, side by side. That lets somebody open it from a low height. Drawers are really great for that too. And even just keeping some, typical supplies low is really great for accessibility too. And for the practice of counters, a simple switch in renovation is going to counters that are 28 to 34 inches off the ground versus the typical 36 or 34 to 36. So that's a best practice, is getting somewhere around 34, which means a lot of different sorts of people are going to be able to use the kitchen safely and effectively. And short of that, going back to the idea of a table, islands and bar stools can be hard for little kids, and they're really they're uncomfortable for guests in a chair. So you're looking up, and it's not a great practice. But a kitchen table is something that somebody can roll onto. For kids, you can stack books on a chair. It's really welcome to everybody. I think the idea of designing to the edges, designing for all sorts of guests, is not just a good practice. It's a smart practice, and it's a savvy business move. So I think that looking into that a little bit more and reveling in some of the design options you have there is really going to pay back, and you're going to have fun doing it. Speaking of fun, chapter number 5, our final chapter, is about play. And it's amazing. I'm not totally surprised, but when I started looking into it, this is exactly why people go on family trips. This is exactly the point of vacation. 85% of travelers with children 10 and under say that family fun is their number one need. It surpasses everything else. Are there fun things for the family to do on their trip? That is their number one thought, their number one goal. So from the second they start shopping around, they are looking at these listings and they are scanning the property for what's fun for their kids. Because if the kids are having fun, then the adults are having fun, or at least relaxing. Showing some images of toys is major. I love this article from Cup of Joe blogger, Joanna Goddard, who's one of the mommy bloggers out there, been at it for a while. And she said that her number one thing across the board, and she wrote this to her millions of readers, in choosing a vacation rental property is toys. Because as she puts it, other kids' toys are the best it gets. Like, it almost doesn't matter what they are, although I'm going to tell you which are really good. Kids walk in and they're like, other people's toys. And she said that her kids would go play. They didn't need food. They didn't need water. They didn't want to be interrupted. Her and her husband would unpack, pour a glass of wine, sit down, start reading a book. And it was like hours would pass. And the vacation began the second they would walk in the door with a house that had toys. That's just how powerful they are. Kids are obsessed with other people's toys. It is like all new. So ones that work really well are especially open-ended imagination play. So think doll houses, play kitchens, train sets, Jenga, blocks, magnetiles, puzzles. All of that is just sort of like open free play and earns parents so much time. And that's sort of the point, right? I also, you have to think of play as something that we do to help adults have fun as well. And I can think of no better way to do that than some of the simple things and things that can happen actually outside, just like on the property, or something as simple as a swing or a hammock, a fire pit, of course. I love this quote that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And so adding these little features and taking pictures of it and letting it be known, not only is there playthings here on the property for all ages, but also maybe take a picture of the playground down the street or a family-friendly restaurant that has a great feature and put it in your binder if you have a welcome binder, and put it on your listing, no doubt, to say, here's what's available to you. Your kids will be busy, you'll be happy. That's really the point. I love all the pictures of sheds and of bicycles and just saying like, here's what we've got. You're welcome to it. And immediately the mind starts going and says, okay, yeah, I get it. I gave you a slide of good old fashioned family fun, 24 more ways to make it joyful. And I've already thought of 10 additional ones, but everything from, bright pink towels instead of white, maybe, or pink striped beach towels, gives a sense of fun. What about leaving a pair of walkie-talkies on the property? What about for a rainy day, like funfetti cake mix and a cupcake tray, record player, guitar, rowboat or canoe? Also books, like books for adults, especially if they're of the region. These are things that you can get at a thrift store or at a yard sale. Not big cost and a huge payoff because people need something to do and they're more likely to do these things when they're on vacation. It's like a break from the norm, Okay, a couple more audience questions and then we're out. So 2 of these fell in the same category for me. One was, reviews say that our place is dated. What are some inexpensive updates? And the next one, how can you achieve a high-end look or decor for less? Easy. I present to you how designers do their rental properties. I have spent, almost 20 years working in home magazines, and I've learned from the best designers and architects out there how to make a beautiful home. And that's what we see in magazines. But what I also know about these people is that they are basically the lifestyle editors-in-chiefs for the lives of their clients. Their job is to reduce that friction, make that joyful every single day for their clients. And I'll tell you how they do that for their own guests. Number one, they're more likely to spend on comfortable, well-made furniture and then use performance fabrics. So they buy big rugs and they make sure that they can be cleaned or spot cleaned, or in the case of Sisal or natural fabric, they last for a couple of years and you replace them and the cost is built into that. They know that buying something at resale, estate sale, secondhand, Facebook Marketplace, and actually taking the time to get it reupholstered in something good is incredibly high value and different than sort of a disposable sofa that you might get online that isn't comfy to start with, doesn't get comfier with age, and you end up throwing it away anyway. So not a great environmental choice there. Number 2, less stuff. They don't really, decorators actually don't really decorate. They don't have a lot of tchotchkes. They don't have beach decor. They don't have signs with phrases on them. And they don't do that thing where above the kitchen cabinets, they put objects and sort of items up there. They really like clean sight lines. They like a guest to be able to enjoy a couple, shots of color, a couple of nice pieces of, furniture in the space, or the view, which might be why they're there. So there's just not a lot of stuff everywhere. Number 3, they stick with a tonal palette. That could be neutrals, but it can also be blue and white. Let's say if you are at the shore, or, brown and white if you're in the mountains. And then they use little hits of color. Number 4, more curtains, more rugs, more pillows, because fabric equals homey. And that's true in a summer property, and it's certainly true in a winter property, that having a rug underfoot, of having another layer of pillows on the bed, having toss pillows on the sofas, there's just something luxurious and welcoming about that. And number 5 is they use color in a strategic, memorable way. This is something that I showed you with that like great Kelly green pieces of furniture. And there's like hits of color all throughout. You can see it's just something that people will remember. It's something that they'll latch onto and something that they'll so enjoy. So I hope you got some great tips and ideas. I look forward to more of your feedback. You can find me on Instagram at Sophie Dow, DOW. And always thanks to Verbo and the Verbo family for having me back. I always enjoy talking to you guys.